بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا ومولانا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه وأزواجه وذريته أجمعين. اللهم ربنا أرنا الحق حقا وارزقنا اتباعه وأرنا الباطل باطلا وارزقنا اجتنابه. اللهم أرنا حقائق الأشياء كما هي. ربنا زدنا علما وعملا وإخلاصا يا رب العالمين. اللهم انصر أولياءك في غزة وفي الضفة وفي لبنان وفي مشارق الأرض ومغاربها. اللهم انصرهم على عدوك وعدوهم إنك على كل شيء قدير. اللهم فرج لنا ولإخواننا في غزة وفي الضفة وفي لبنان وفي مشارق الأرض ومغاربها. اللهم نفس كربنا وكربهم وثبت أقدامنا وأقدامهم وألطف بنا وبهم يا أرحم الراحمين. وصل وسلم على سيدنا ومولانا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه وأزواجه وذريته أجمعين برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. Just want to get an overview of Berkeley's philosophy, especially his critique of modern science and his critique of meta, because we have been doing, it has been coming up in our reading of reconstruction of religious thought in Islam. So I don't know how good this entry is, but we're just going to read it and see if we can get anything out of it. Okay, Berkeley is the most striking. So I'm just going to read and just disregard anything which is not of interest to us at this point. Just focus on what we are trying to look at. Okay, Berkeley is the most striking and even unique phenomena in the history of philosophy. There have been many philosophers who have constructed bold and sweeping, often strange and astonishing metaphysical systems. Some, particularly in the English tradition, for example, Thomas Reid in the 8th century and J. Moore in the 20th, have been devoted to the clarification and defense of common sense. And it's important to understand common sense as they understood it. It's very important. Common sense. So people always talk about common sense, but in common sense its dictionary meaning is synonymous with good sense and sound judgment. Especially in practical matters. But all these things are, and common sense as a whole is, context sensitive, very context sensitive, horizontally as well as vertically. So, common sense of a specific society differ from other societies, and a specific historical period differ from other historical periods, etc. That's one thing. And if we look at the Latin roots of common sense, sensus communis, so common sense is a communal sense. That is, your communal sense is your common sense, a sense of a community, a particular community. And that is obviously, at least to a certain extent, it is determined by the historical experience of a community and its overall worldview, etc. So common sense is not something context contextless. Contextless. It's very context, and so a sense of common sense is a sense of a particular community and its historical understanding or its historical experience at a particular time and space in history. Okay. And in this context, when philosophers talk about common sense, that common sense might be a common sense of a particular philosophical community within a particular community, etc., at a particular time. Okay, and some have made it their chief concern to defend some philosophy, religious faith and doctrine against their perceived enemy. It is peculiar achievement of Berkeley that with highly virtuosity and skill, he contrived to present himself in all these roles at once. That is, the defender of common sense as well as defender of religious faith and doctrine against its perceived enemy. trying to perceived enemies, so they weren't real enemies. His readers have differed in their assessment of the relative weights to be according to these not clearly compatible concerns. It is easy to read him as primarily a fantastic metaphysician, a line taken to his baffled chagrin by almost all of his contemporaries. More recently, some, by reaction against this, have perhaps tended to overstress his credentials as a champion of common sense. Champion of common sense. His religious apologetics, if scarcely his dominant interests, were unquestionably sincere, but mainly one should try to see how, not merely temperamentally, but as a lucid theorist, he really did contrive to make a coherent whole of his diverse concerns. The works on which Berkeley's fame securely rests were written when he was a very young man. Born and educated in Ireland, he first visited England in 1713 when he was 28, and his 3 dialogues was published that year in 1713. But he had by then already published his essays toward a new theory of vision and his work, a treatise concerning the principles of human knowledge. His later philosophical writings do little more than to defend, amplify, and in one or two respects amend comprehensive views thus clearly arrived at. It is in fact evident from his correspondence that in his later years concern with philosophical issues was far long periods. In fact, it is evident from his correspondence that in his later years concern with philosophical issues was far long periods wholly displaced by other interests. For long periods. In his for long period was wholly displaced by other interests. In this respect, he differs markedly from John Locke, the chief target of his criticism. With Berkeley, as I understand him, his philosophy, like Hume afterwards, builds on John Locke. So if you don't really accept John Locke's initial premises, it's hard to agree with Berkeley's criticism. But if you do take John Locke seriously, as both Berkeley and Hume did, then it's hard to not take seriously some of Berkeley's criticism. So that's uh, one thing here. It should be noted. So, in this respect, he differs markedly from John Locke, the chief target of his criticism, whose essays concerning human history, long meditated and much revised, did not appear until till its author was nearly 60. The young Berkeley was apt to commend Locke's thought, not without irony, as quite creditable for one so far advanced in years. The young Berkeley was apt to commend Locke's thought, not without irony, as quite creditable for one so far advanced in years. A major motive for Locke's philosophy, with which obviously Locke is a major figure in philosophy, especially political philosophy. He is one of the greatest political philosophers of modernity, and the most important liberal philosopher and capitalist philosopher. Obviously, Berkeley doesn't have that status at all. In that sense, he is more like Schopenhauer, for example, in the history of philosophy. As a side note, even despite their intrinsic worth and all that, historically, more of a side note. A major motive of Locke's philosophy, with which Berkeley was well acquainted in his students' days, was to work out the implications of the great achievements of the 17th century science. I mean, that's one way of reading it. I think a very parochial way of reading it. It had been established beyond all question, he took it, that the material universe was really essentially a system of bodies mechanically intersecting in space. He took it, meaning Locke. It had been established beyond all question, he took it, that the material universe was really essentially a system of bodies mechanically interacting in space. Bodies made, so to speak, of matter and really possessing just those qualities, primary qualities. Primary qualities are required for the mechanical mode of operation. Solidity, these are primary qualities. Figure, extension, motion, or rest, and number. And secondary qualities are the qualities which, it doesn't mean that they don't exist within bodies, but they, as we see them, they are the result of, or as we experience them, they are the result of our interaction. So, for example, sound and color, for example, they are not primary qualities, they are the qualities which arise out of an interaction between human beings and these material bodies. Obviously, the distinction between primary and secondary qualities goes back to Galileo, and so that's not Locke's invention, but this was the bedrock of Locke's position. Let's read it again. So it had been established beyond all question, Locke took it, that the material universe was really essentially a system of bodies mechanically interacting in space. Bodies made, so to speak, of matter. Okay, let's stop it. Let's reflect on it a bit. So let's summarize Locke's worldview as presented by this author of this entry. And for Locke, this worldview was established by science. So obviously, science deals with Science doesn't try to come up with a worldview. That's the philosopher's task, or scientists when they're acting as philosophers. Beyond all question that material universe was really a material universe. So he's not talking about soul or self, for example, or God, for example. That's outside material universe. It was really essentially a system of bodies, consist of bodies of different sorts. And it's a system, like interconnected. It's not just a random bodies. Systems, it must have structure as well. Mechanically interacting in space. So bodies are in space. So this is a generalization based on an understanding of Newton, I guess. Space. The bodies are in space. So body, a system, but mechanically interacting in space. So bodies are in space and they are interacting with each other. They're acting on each other mutually, mechanically. Now, when we talk about mechanically, it means when we talk about mechanically, it's in one sense it means machine, related to machine. But what does that mean? Basically mean they are interacting with each other mechanically means without thought, without the, so no mind is involved. That's important. Either mind of God or man. There's no mind. So mechanically mean without thought or spontaneity. That's what, or what we will call automatically. So this interaction is automatic, not influenced by anything other than matter or other than bodies. That's what we mean here by mechanically. So material universe is essentially a system of bodies, and they're interacting with each other without external influence, and they're interacting in space. Bodies made, so to speak, of matter, and these bodies are made of matter. And at this stage, matter is something which has motion and which has extension, etc. These so-called primary qualities, and it doesn't have mind. Okay. So we should remember, with all his criticism of Descartes, Locke was a Cartesian as well, as was Newton to a certain extent, in the sense that they developed their system, both Newton and John Locke, as a dialogue and critique of Descartes to a certain extent. So Locke's system is, you have bodies are material bodies. This is a system. Bodies are in space. They are interacting with each other mechanically, that is automatically, without the influence of any mind. Okay, and bodies are made up of matter. Okay, that's the sort of stuff. And these bodies have two types of qualities: primary qualities and secondary qualities. And primary qualities are real qualities in the sense that they define what matter is, and they're basically solidity. That's why Allama Iqbal has been so much against solidity. So he took Locke's view to be Newton's view. And obviously Berkeley would critique John Locke at this very point, because he took Locke to say that secondary qualities are not the real qualities inherent in the matter, only primary qualities are. And what Berkeley did was to show, in his view anyway, that primary qualities have the same status. If primary qualities are also not real, separate from mind, then matter withers away in that independence of the matters wither away. Not the matter as such, but the independence of matter withers away. So basically, Locke's universe was a universe without Locke's material universe was without mind, and it could exist without mind. It could function without mind. And Berkeley shows that it can't, it doesn't. Okay, so that's this was the bedrock of system of bodies mechanically interacting in space, bodies made, so to speak, of matter and really possessing just those qualities, material qualities, primary qualities required for their mechanical mode of operation. So those qualities which are required for this, for automatic interaction and motion, spontaneous motion and interaction, though only those qualities are part and parcel of the very essence of the matter, and those qualities are solidity, figure, extension, motion, and rest, and number. This was the bedrock of Locke's position. Okay, and Berkeley would critique this position, and I think this is a good place to stop today. So, Subhanakallah, or maybe we should go back and read the text and then. Okay, so it had been established beyond all question, he took it, that is, John Locke took it, that the material universe was really essential system of bodies mechanically, that is, spontaneously, without any external influence, interacting in space. Bodies made, so to speak, of matter, and really possessing just those qualities. That is, qualities which are essential for mechanical interaction, for the mechanical mode of operation. And those qualities are solidity, figure, extension, motion, or rest, and number. 1, 2, 3, 4. And the other qualities are secondary qualities, which don't have we are not saying, I mean, Berkeley might have said that, but we are not saying that those qualities are not real qualities, but they only emerge in interaction with matter and a mind. This was the bedrock of Locke's position. Okay. Subhanakallahumma wa bihamdika nashhadu an la ilaha illa anta nastaghfiruka wa natubu ilayk wa sallallahu ala Muhammadin wa alihi wa sallam salatan wa salaman huwa ahluha. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آل محمد صلاة أنت لها أهل وبارك وسلم. اللهم صل على محمد معدن الجود والكرم ومنبع العلم والحكم وعلى آله وأصحابه وسلم. اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آل سيدنا محمد النبي الأمي الذي أرسلته رحمة للعالمين واصطفيته على الخلائق أجمعين عدد ما في علمك وملء ما في علمك وزنة ما في علمك وعدد خلقك وعدد كل ذرة أضعافا مضاعفة في ذلك 1000 مرة في كل نفس ولمحة ولحظة وطرفة يطرف بها أهل السماوات والأرض وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. اللهم انصر إخواننا في لبنان وفي غزة وفي الضفة وفي اليمن وفي إيران وفي مشارق الأرض ومغاربها. اللهم انصرهم على عدوك وعدوهم إنك على كل شيء قدير. اللهم سدد رميهم وسدد خطاهم وسدد رايهم. اللهم ألف بين قلوبهم وأصلح ذات بينهم. اللهم انصرهم على عدوك وعدوهم إنك على كل شيء قدير. اللهم انصرهم نصرا عزيزا معكرا. وصل وسلم على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وأزواجه وذريته أجمعين برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. آمين 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 يا رب العالمين.